So we have covered a lot of material already in chapter 2, and we have more to go, but let's go back and do a very brief review so we have a pivot point to know where we're heading. We've already looked at the impact of food stocks and survival mechanisms for ancient people and their ability to tell time so that they know when the planting season is, so they know when the animals are going to migrate, so they know when the cold weather is coming. We've looked at calendars by the stars, calendars by the sun, calendars by the moon, and now we're going to look into combined solar and lunar calendars to predict eclipses, because while food was a very important survival mechanism, obviously, eclipses were terrifying, and so being able to predict an eclipse made it a little bit less scary. So let's look into what eclipses are and how they're predicted. The Chaldeans were the first to be able to predict eclipses, and if you see back here, they were able to predict them starting at about 2000 BC. Amazing. Now you might say, well, where is Chaldea? Chaldea is along this Fertile Crescent that we were talking about. Here's Egypt in here, and the Nile, the Mediterranean Sea, into Syria, and into Babylon. And right near Babylon, there was a nation or a group of peoples that disappeared called Chaldea. They were eventually just absorbed into the Babylonian society. And the Chaldean astronomers were very skilled and developed a solar eclipse and lunar eclipse prediction mechanism called the Saros cycle. We'll get into that. Because they invented this system because eclipses were so terrifying. And if you look at these pictures, you can understand why. If you couldn't understand what an eclipse was, and these people were not doing research to understand why these events happened, they could at least predict when they would be happening so that there was a little bit less terror involved in them. To go over this, an eclipse is the blocking of light of one celestial object by another celestial object. That blocking can be partial or it can be total. And it is, in our solar system, when the sun, the moon, and the earth line up. We'll go into all the specifics of that. A solar eclipse is shown here. An annular eclipse, which is a type of solar eclipse and must have been terrifying, as you can see, is shown here. And a lunar eclipse, when the moon turns blood red, is shown here. So you can understand how this was a universal fear. In the Mayan culture, you see it in black and white here. They are looking at this and thinking that this object up here was the heavens, this object here is the sun, and this is a serpent eating the sun. In Chinese culture, in here, the sun is back here, or perhaps it's the moon, and it's being flown into by a dragon. This is the sign for a dragon. And in Indian culture, we're seeing the sun or the moon being eaten by serpents. Let's start with the easy stuff, and then we'll move to the tougher stuff, okay? The lunar eclipse is when the moon is hidden in the Earth's shadow. When the moon is hidden in the Earth's shadow. The sun is over here. And the Earth is blocking sunlight from getting to the moon. So it's in the Earth's shadow. As a result of that, the moon starts to look dark. And this can occur at every full moon, but it does not occur at every full moon. You see that it is a full moon because this lineup is such that the sun is shining directly on the moon and you are seeing the lineup as a full moon. So this can occur at every full moon, but it does not occur at every full moon. The reason why you don't get an eclipse or a lunar eclipse at every full moon is because the moon's orbit around the Earth is tilted such that at the extremes of the orbit, or in most places in the orbit, you will have no blockage of light by the Earth. This moon is too high. It can still get to the sun's light. In most cases, and in most full moons, which you see here, you don't have a lineup of the sun, the earth, and the moon. In this case, again, you have a moon that is a full moon that is above the plane of the Earth's revolution. So it gets all of the sun's light. The same might happen in this area, and the same might happen in this area on that full moon, and here. So obviously we have a lineup problem, but most of the full moons are out of the Earth's shadow. Let's see when it does happen. What you're noticing here is a lineup of the lunar orbit around the Earth and the Earth itself as it revolves around the sun. This revolution goes back to the ecliptic that we looked at before. The ecliptic is the pattern of the Earth's revolution around the sun. It's called the ecliptic because it's the zone of eclipses. When the Earth's ecliptic is lined up with the sun and the moon, there will be an eclipse. So we'll get into that a little bit more. I wanted you to make aware of what's needed. And when you do have that lineup where the sun is in line with the Earth and is in line with the moon, and this obviously is not to scale, that blockage of light actually can produce some spectacular colors because the only light that is reaching the moon is the light that is refracted off of the Earth's atmosphere. And in general, that light can be red light, like red sky at night, sailor's delight, I'm sure you've heard about. So in this situation for a lunar eclipse, the total lunar eclipse here will turn bright red. You can imagine that must have been pretty scary. Let's talk about how that happens. The shadow that the Earth imparts onto the moon actually comes in two parts. And one part is called the umbra, and the other is called the penumbra. Let's look into that a little bit more. The umbra is derived from the Latin word umbrae, which means to shade, as in umbrella, right? And the umbra actually blocks all light rays from the sun from getting to the moon. So these are all of your extremes on the light waves. For instance, we know that the sun emits light waves in every direction. Well, certainly this light wave is not going to reach the moon. And this light wave is not going to reach the moon. And guess what? Even this light wave is not going to reach the moon when it's behind the Earth. This light ray doesn't reach the moon because it's blocked by the Earth. This light ray, same thing, same thing. I have no extremes where a light ray can get directly to the moon. In that area, it is called the umbra for shade, total shade, and that's a total lunar eclipse. The penumbra is an area where some light rays can get to the moon. Let's look at it a little bit more closely. If we have a counterclockwise revolution of the moon around the sun, then that means that this moon right here could be in this position in the penumbra, in the purple penumbra. And which light rays from the sun could get to it? Well, this light ray from the sun certainly could not get to the moon down here. And this light ray from the sun certainly could not get to this moon down here. And this light ray from the sun just barely is cut off. But this light ray can get through, as can light rays right along here. So there are some light rays that can get through to the sun, and that would mean that the moon would be in partial shade. Doesn't have all the light from the sun, but it has part of the light from the sun, especially from this area and from these light rays. When you're entering the penumbra and it's a counterclockwise motion, you go from more light, because you had plenty of light out here, to less light as you move into the umbra. When you are leaving the umbra and entering the penumbra, you're going from no light in the umbra to a little bit more light to even more light in the penumbra. Let's see what rays can get to this Earth here. Well, certainly these rays cannot get to that Earth. And these rays are still being blocked, just barely, by that Earth. And this ray can certainly get to the moon. So we have part of the sun being able to shine on the moon for a partial lunar eclipse. See you on the other side.